Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today we're going to be talking about understanding emotional eating in your children. This is such a big topic, parents. We're going to dive in so great. I hope that you buckle up and ready for this, because here we go. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-age children who want to be one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school. And today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have a special guest. His name is Kamy Moussavi. And Kamy is a nutritional therapist and founder of Step Together, which is an organization that's supporting families to overcome childhood eating struggles with compassion and connection. He brings personal experience and professional expertise to his work for hundreds of families, and I cannot wait to dive in to how we can help our kids with eating over this episode. So thank you for being here, Kamy.
Kristina, thank you for having me on. It's really exciting. I love your energy, so I'm eager to jump into it.
This is a great topic because I think a lot of parents know that this is an issue, and yet they don't know where to begin. And it's so hard to talk to your child, especially a teenager, around food, because it's a very personal thing. But let's start off with identifying the why behind the hunger. So for a parent who isn't sure how they can distinguish between a child who is genuinely hungry because maybe a growth spurt and a child who is using food to soothe themselves, how can we know?
It's a really tricky question. And if you're a parent listening to this and you're finding yourself struggling with this, I completely understand. Even to this day, I can't say we work exactly with this topic, but we can't always be like, hey, exactly this moment your child is asking for food because of an emotion or because of a true hunger. So the most important question is, before even asking this question, whether it's emotional hunger or not, what is the worry that parents have when they're asking this question? A lot of parents come to us when they're like, my child is just overeating too much. They've gained excess weight. They're starting to be picked on at school. Maybe they're being bullied. And we need to get ahead of this because I think the eating is emotional and not out of hunger. So it's important. Where do we start? If you're seeing your child doesn't really have any issues with weight or anything that's causing them further damage, it's actually better to be completely, let them have the food. Of course, you don't want to have them eat unhealthy food in excess, but don't focus too much on it because the focus itself can lead to a lot of different problems in terms of eating disorders or not. But if you're finding yourself having an issue such as weight or some deeper emotional stuff, now we can go deeper.
I love that because it's so hard to tell. And along those same lines, is there a difference in how emotional eating looks in a toddler versus a teenager?
It's you don't give me easy questions. Right. So emotional eating, it can start as a toddler. And in my own personal story, a lot of the emotions that a child feels start from even before they're born. They can start from the womb. They can pick up some of the emotions and the challenges that the mom went through, and they have the emotions coming into this world, and they need just if you contextualize it this way, emotional eating is simply you're eating because of an emotional need that your brain is tricking you into hunger, right? You come into this world, you're a baby, you have emotions. Emotions are actually the way you communicate with your mom, you communicate with your dad. It's your first language before you learn anything else. So you start crying, mom comes and picks you up, and she's the one who's supposed to detect what you need. And so very quickly you learn how to use your emotions to communicate, and your emotions communicate with you as well. If you have an emotion, let's say you're a toddler, you have an emotion that is complex, you feel loneliness. What do you do with loneliness? You cry, you get help from mom, she comes and soothes you. But it's not always one-to-one like that. Sometimes you feel loneliness, you put a piece of food in your mouth, you feel better. Oh, so I can fix this loneliness with different ways. I can either cry for mom's attention, or I can go to food to soothe it. So very quickly you can start developing this. And how can a mom detect whether it's the hunger is from hunger or whether it's from an emotion? It's really hard. The simplest trick or the simplest tip or insight that we can have into this is, if you're eating foods that are, let's say, more stimulating, we call them highly dopaminergic foods. For example, crackers, chips, goldfish, typically more processed stuff, typically things more higher in sugar or salty and fatty, and your child is not accepting anything that is healthier, broccoli, lean carbs, or unrefined carbohydrates, protein, they're rejecting those. It's a clue. It's a clue that their hunger might not actually be hunger, because what they're seeking is actually dopamine and serotonin, and their brain has tricked them. Food is the fastest way to get it. And so that's the biggest insight.
Now, our audience here are parents of adolescents. So I want to talk more about some of those topics that these parents are going to be dealing with. And one I see so often is the impact of boredom on food. So in our fast-paced world, many kids don't know how to be bored anymore, and they turn to snacks to like fill that void. So my question is, how can parents help children sit with the discomfort of boredom without reaching for the pantry?
Our work at Step Together is actually focused on parents for a very specific reason. You're asking me, how can parents teach their children how to deal with boredom? But you know yourself, when's the last time you see a parent not doing anything, sitting with boredom? And again, from personal experience with my mom was a single mom, working all the time, pursuing a PhD and trying to take care of us. If I ask her today to sit still for 10 minutes and face boredom, she's going to be like, Kamy, you're crazy. I can't. I'm going to die. She'll actually say that, right? So boredom is a painful emotion, whether you're a teen or you're an adult. And in today's world, because we have such an abundance of stimulation, whether it's from processed food, from technology, from TikTok, Instagram, video games. I used to be a video game developer, so I was actually on the other side of this equation, where we're sitting in a room figuring out how we can stimulate people more and more so that they can keep playing more of the game. So there's so much going against you and your child, so many millions and billions of dollars poured into this. So my first gut reaction is to reduce a little bit of the pressure. Don't give your child so much burden to try to figure out this boredom problem. First, acknowledge this. It's impossibly hard. And now, how do you help them deal with it? Again, it falls onto, in our work, mostly the parent. You want to help protect your child. Everything is trying to get their attention. Everything is trying to essentially make them stimulated in some sense, both you and them. We have a lot of parents who work with us and they themselves 3-4 hours a day on their phone scrolling, right? And if they're struggling with that, how can they expect their child not to struggle with it? You have a fully developed frontal lobe supposed to help you resist these temptations, and still you fall into it. So it's all about the environment. It's all about crafting an environment where your child can face the boredom and doesn't easily fall into these traps.
And I've said that over and over again. I feel like every episode, it's always about parents taking the lead and modeling the behaviors they want to see in their children first, and not being a hypocrite about it. And this is no exception. This area is no exception at all. We need to do that. I also want to talk to you about parenting patterns and food culture, because like we've said, we have these ingrained things in our brain around food, these beliefs, these things that our parents did to us. And now we're handing them down to our kids, and they're not necessarily good habits. So, for example, how does the pressure of what many parents say, finish everything on your plate, interfere with a child's ability to listen to their internal fullness cues?
It 100% interferes. But first, I also want to reduce a little bit of the guilt on the parent. The thing that you said that stood out to me is, yeah, we've learned these patterns from our own parents and we're passing them down without really realizing that it's happening. Right? So if you're a parent listening to this and you're already feeling maybe a little bit of resistance, feeling like, okay, we're targeting too much, putting too much blame on the parent, it's not the goal at all. Actually, when we work with parents, the first thing we do is We ask them about their childhood. Where did you learn your own patterns? How did you learn your relationship with food and how to deal with emotions from a young age? And the tricky part is most of your behavior, most of your emotional regulation is actually learned at a young age before you're even aware of it, right? So, with that insight as a parent, it's very important you understand that you want to help your child develop a healthy relationship with food, just like you're saying, not force them to finish their plate, not reward them for good behavior by giving them a treat. Not that you shouldn't reward them or give them a treat, but don't make it so obvious that, hey, if you sit down in your room and don't scream or yell, I'm going to give you ice cream. What do they learn to do? Suppress emotions and eat food. And then that starts the cycle of them not even being in connection with their emotions. You're talking about hunger cues, but even deeper emotions, right? If your child is emotional and anxious or throwing a tantrum and you're like, hey, here's some ice cream, they learn that, oh, okay, emotion, food, problem solved. And then they continue with that for the rest of their life. Hopefully they get into contact with someone who can help them give that insight to break out of it, but most people don't. Unfortunately, most people, they get that insight from a young age, and if you're a parent who still struggles with food today, it's probably you got it from childhood, and now you're passing it down to your kids without really being aware of it.
And I just want to raise my hand and say, yes, I've done this too. I mean, I'm a parenting coach and I'd love to think that I'm a really good parent, but I have made this mistake. I mean, I think we all do, where we were taught, like, oh, let me give you a treat. After this, you clean your room. We're going to go out for ice cream. And it's not with the intention of trying to give our kids any kind of bad emotional eating disorder. It's just that we were trying to figure out, what to give them that was rewarding and sounded great and fun. And yes, just like you said, for parents to be able to now see this, see possibly what they might be doing, learn from this episode, but then give ourselves grace for some of the things that we do. We're not perfect, and this happens. And as long as we do it intermittently and not consistently, it's fine. It's fine. Our kids are going to be okay. They're so resilient. I also want to get into the adolescent years because, wow, this creates a unique, perfect storm for emotional eating between the surge of hormones and this increased academic pressure and the heavy influence of social media. The relationship with food often becomes this battleground for control and for their self-image. So I wanted to start with you maybe describing some of the social and academic pressures that adolescents have around eating, because they can actually take control of something here in their life. And I don't think a lot of parents look at it this way, where so many kids use food as a way to control something in their life in a time period where literally life feels out of control.
So this is, again, I want to bring in a little bit of personal experience into this, which is all of my work is founded on this. As a kid, for me, the hardest time was around exams. Not necessarily the hardest, but one of the hardest times, right? Exam season comes, you have 4, 5, 6 back-to-back exams crunched in a matter of 2 weeks, and of course you're anxious, especially if you have pressure from your parents. You have to perform, you have to do well, you feel a lot of anxiety. Very, very common for children to go to food during those stress times, right? So, I mean, parents know this. They've been through it themselves. Academic stress is one of it. One of the stressors that a lot of parents that we work with are not immediately aware of is how much their own stressors affect children. A lot of moms are anxious. And I think this is not, when I say that, you're not going to be like, oh, Kamy, I don't believe you. No, a lot of moms are anxious. It's part of the game. It's like you come into motherhood and you pick up the anxiety. And children are attuned to their mom's anxiety. Their dads too. But in your brain, your amygdala, as a mom, hyperactive to pay attention to the child's needs and meet them. And on the other hand, children look up to their mom and dad to see, am I safe in the world? Is it okay? is everything good? And they can pick up your anxiety without even having any word for it. They just pick it up. Their body's trying to respond to it. And now they need to deal with it in some way. And a healthy way for a child to deal with their emotion at that age is, Mom, I'm feeling worried. I'm anxious, or I'm stressed about school. There's something bothering me at school. Someone said something. I need your help to deal with it. Or I just need to vent a little bit. And a parent, if they're skilled, they can help absorb it without making them feel worse. But typically, this is the experience of a child. And I can tell you this, and probably you experience some of this as well, and everyone experiences a little bit of this. You go to your parents, you tell them you're feeling something, sad, worried, anxious, and you leave off feeling even worse than you started. Because now they have their own stories and they have their own emotional reaction to it. And sometimes it's overwhelming, or sometimes it's a matter of they're lecturing you and they're making you feel like, oh my God, you did something so terribly wrong. How could you put yourself in that situation? And then the child is like, okay, I have an emotion. I go to my parents. It's not helping. It's not helping at all. Where do I go instead? Food, tech, other behavior that if I mention here, parents would probably get worried. I'm not going to go into it, but they need something, right? So they go to that. So it's no surprise. And I forget your question initially. Hopefully that answered it.
Yeah, it's just that you're using food as a way to control something in their life when everything feels so out of control, so hectic. For teenagers especially, I feel like I see so many kids turn to food as way, not only just for comfort, but as a way to control something.
Yeah. And that something is typically just something, a discomfort, even boredom. Again, we talked about boredom being uncomfortable, right? If they
Yeah.
have access to suppress it, how can you blame them for doing that?
And what about the dopamine that kids get from these highly processed comfort foods and sugary stuff? Because our adolescents, especially their brain, is very sensitive to dopamine. So um, I know we talked a little bit about how it's going to make us feel better, but this is a real thing, isn't it? Like they actually get a little dopamine from the sugars.
I wouldn't even say a little dopamine. There are some studies that show that sugar can be more addictive than even something like cocaine for some people. And your genetic predisposition to this matters a lot. You know how a lot of people say, I'm genetically predisposed to be overweight?
Mhm.
They often talk about their metabolism. They often talk about how much their body burns just at a resting metabolic rate. But something that's I don't see many people talk about is how much reward your brain gives you for certain types of food. And in my work, before being a nutritional therapist, I was an engineer. So for me, I love to dissect exactly where the system is breaking. And it's beautiful to see we fall that neatly into two different categories. Some people, their brain lights up for sugar. Some people, their brain lights up for salty, crispy, crunchy stuff. And you're going to have that person that says, yeah, for me, it's the ice cream. And then the other person's like, yeah, a bag of chips. We would much rather that. Right? I'm curious, which one do you fall into?
Oh, I like the salty stuff, but my daughter and my mom, man, were they sugar eaters?
Right. And that's what's happening. Their brain is just giving them more dopamine as a response to it. And dopamine doesn't have to be that complex. It's just a chemical in your brain. When you eat something, it lights up, it rewards you with dopamine. And then the next time you're thinking about it, it motivates you to go get more of it. So, both for motivation and the reward of it. And food, when a corporation is trying to decide, how can I make my food more engaging and people to buy it more? All they need to figure out is how to make it more dopaminergic, light up more dopamine in your brain. So when you go
Wow.
in the processed aisle, you can look at the food being like, okay, this is designed to give dopamine. Even the colors, even the packaging, like a goldfish cracker, those little tiny cartoon things that they put to engage kids, that's giving them dopamine too.
I mean, it's no wonder that kids have so much resistance against stopping eating those processed foods, because if this is happening, it's a real brain addiction. It goes beyond um, just get over it and mental. It's actually a physical thing
Yeah.
too.
And I love that you go into that category because the thing that helps you stop it is a part of your brain called the frontal lobes, right? The part that's responsible for executive function. This part it starts developing around 6, 7 years old, and it matures in your mid 20s. So the first thing I like to tell parents is you're probably expecting too much of your child's brain who's still developing. Look, on one side, you have billions of dollars poured into getting their brain hijacked and basically get them addicted to stuff. And on this side, you have a developing brain that's, what are they going to do? They just fall into it. Despite, I mean, tell me one child that wants to be overweight. Tell me one person, even an adult. No one wants to. Tell me an addict that wants to actually be addicted and ruin their life. They don't. But this mechanism in their brain is just being hijacked. And children, for me, they're so innocent. They don't even have a choice most of the time. They just fall into this world, and there's so many things pulling their attention and trying to give them more dopamine. And we're expecting a little bit too much of them sometimes. So it again comes down to the parents. Help them craft the environment and help them model also behavior for them that you model, basically, we talked about earlier, not using things to emotionally suppress, not using even, we have so many parents come to us and they're like, I never had issues with food. I don't understand what my child is going through. And then we dig a little bit deeper and the alcohol comes up, the cigarette comes up, the work comes up, shopping, gambling, whatever. If you're using something to deal with your emotions, even if it doesn't feel like you're doing it, especially workaholics, it's hard for them to admit it. But if you're modeling that, then your child doesn't have much other choice. They have food, tech, that's it most of the time. And their brain is just going to go to
So
the
glad we're
metric.
talking about that, because I feel like so many parents are hard on their kids around this because they don't see food as an addictive agent of some sort. And so I'm so glad we're talking about it. And hopefully this is opening somebody's eyes out there to say, we were talking about giving grace to ourselves, but giving grace to your child, that this is going to be really hard to quit eating chips and going from regular Lay's even to baked Lay's. It's just like they taste different and the dopamine is going to be different. And it's not as easy as just, come on, kid,
Right. Why can't you just eat less and move more?
Mm-hmm.
Why is obesity a problem at all? Like, it's so simple.
Yeah. No, I
Right.
feel like we don't understand that a lot. Many, many parents, we just don't get it. And so hopefully this is bringing so much awareness to that. And along those same lines, I want to get now into actionable strategies for parents. So here's the meat of this, parents. How can we actually make a difference in our kids' lives? And the first thing I want to talk about is the most common, the power struggle. So when a parent notices that their child is emotionally eating, our instinct is to police the kitchen, right?
Mhm.
We want to take control and we're going to start monitoring and taking score. So, how does this backfire on us? And how can we address the behavior without sparking another power struggle in our relationship with our kids?
Imagine that you're having an emotion. Let's say you come back from work and you're very upset. And you've learned over 20, 30 years that when you're upset, you go get a glass of wine. Now imagine someone comes in and takes all the wine away and says, hey, tough luck. Or every time you have wine, they start nagging you and saying, hey, why are you having it? You know it's bad for you. What's going on? Why are you doing this? At the moment that you need an emotional response is the worst time for someone to come in and say, hey, you have this emotion. I'm going to block your favorite way of coping with it. No wonder you have a power struggle. Your child has learned how to deal with their internal stuff with food. It's the fastest, most reliable way for them. And if you're seeing them sneak food and hide food, it's because they just don't feel comfortable doing it in front of you. So the first thing is exactly what you're alluding to. Remove the pressure. Just notice in that moment, what are the patterns? Often you start making the connections of, oh, it's a stressful day at school. My daughter or son is coming home, going straight to the pantry. Oh, interesting. Okay, let them have it, but try to have a little conversation with them after the fact, after they've dealt with their emotion. What's going on? I noticed you going to this. Do you feel like it was? I mean, it's even. I hear back if my mom said, "Do you feel like it's because of hunger?" I'd be like, "Mom, please, like don't go." Especially if you're an older teen. But just try to get an insight into their life and start noticing the patterns. If they have a good day, do they still use the food? If they have a bad day, do they still use the food? And slowly, you want to give them different avenues for dealing with their emotions, or even you modeling it better for them. You come back from work. Oh, today was chaos. My boss, complete asshole. I hate him.
Mhm.
I want to go have a glass of wine, but instead I'm going to go for a short walk because I know that's going to make me feel better.
And saying it out loud, what you're doing. Please, parents, don't just go for the walk. Say, I'm going for a walk. Tell your kids why you're going for a walk. That's how they learn. I
Yeah.
love this so much. And one of the things that's really resonating with me as you're speaking is baby steps. You didn't tell the parents to come in and clear out the pantry of everything that's negative and bad. In fact, you're saying just the opposite. You're saying, take note of it, let them have it. Take note of it. Maybe the next day, role model it a little bit better. Take note of it and, see if you can replace one little thing. It's baby steps. And I love that. Thank you so much for that answer. And what about secretive eating? Because I have kids like this. What are the signs that a teen's eating in private? So now they know that you know. So they start hiding the wrappers and stuffing things underneath their bed. Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
And how should a parent bring this up without making their teen feel caught or shame?
When I was a kid, I used to hide in the basement and wait for my mom to go to bed. And as soon as I hear, okay, there's no more sound, nothing going on, I went into the freezer, find anything that I could find. For me, it was also sweets. So ice cream, whatever. Eat the entire thing in one shot, then go to the garbage can, pull out the garbage, put it at the very bottom so that she couldn't find it. And then, most of the time she wouldn't. And sometimes she would be like, I had this box of chocolate. Where did it go? Oh, I don't know. Maybe my brother ate it. Right? So, yes, the only reason why I didn't feel like I could tell her is because her reaction was not something I enjoyed. It's as simple as that. I was having an emotional response. I couldn't go to my parents because my parents, they were overwhelmed. They were immigrants. They had financial issues. They had a lot of relationship issues. Eventually, they divorced. I didn't know any of it. I just knew that if I went to my mom, told her about how I feel, I would feel worse. And so I went to food. And then if she caught me having the food, despite really she had a PhD in health, she really tried her best. She herself had her own eating challenges. But if she saw me overeat, I would also not feel good. So then I would hide it. It's as simple as that. And I know parents, you're listening to this and you're like, no, I don't want my child to feel bad. But try to become aware of how you respond to your child. If you're seeing them have this kind of emotional response that we're talking about, do you get panicked? Do you get worried? Do you get anxious? Does your child feel comfortable to do what they're doing, which is soothing their emotions in front of you? And if they don't, if they're hiding it, it's because they just don't feel comfortable. That's the harsh reality.
And they might just be not necessarily uncomfortable with you. They could also be uncomfortable with it's like how we hide drinking, we hide smoking. We're
Oh,
embarrassed of ourselves in this cycles. I feel like it's very much the same.
yeah, it's shame. So it's really getting them to feel comfortable, not feeling ashamed, and feeling that they can trust you to help deal with it. There's no child, again, that wants to overeat. Everyone that overeats and hides the wrapper feel like they lost control, and they feel shame, they feel guilt, and so they don't want anyone else to find out. So
Mhm.
you want them to become so comfortable that if they do slip, if they lose control, they can be like, hey, mom, I was having a hard day. I ate all the ice cream. I'm sorry. I know you spent so much money and you were keeping those for the party tonight, but I just couldn't help myself. And your response should just be like, I understand. Tell me what happened. What was going on?
Now tell me more about Step Together, because if parents are resonating with what you're saying today, this is what you do, right? Like what if they want to find out more, what is Step Together all about?
Step Together is the creation of not just my pain, but at this point, it's everyone who's struggled with this personally. And this is the most important thing. Everyone who works at Step Together, they've been overweight as a kid. They know what it's like. They've been through this process. And we're here to make sure that you, as parents, help your child before the many, many years, decades sometimes that we went through. Right. So it came from me going deep into on myself, understanding why did all the things that my mom try, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Octavia, Herbalife, you name it. All the diets, everything we tried as a kid, every time I lost weight, I gained it back. Why was that happening? Why was that constantly feeling ashamed and constantly feeling like I could not do anything? And eventually, well into adulthood, I struggled still with weight. So I was determined to solve this. I was an engineer. I'm very focused on finding the right, most effective solution that actually sticks and solves the problem for good. So we're essentially countering all the other solutions that just focus on the surface. Let's give your child now, I don't know if you know this, but Ozempic and Wegovy and all the GLP-1s, it's going to fix your child's weight, but keep them dependent on the medication for the rest of life. So we're here to help you address the root cause, understand what is going on, whether it's emotional eating, whether it's ADHD and dopamine seeking, whether it's parental struggles, relationship struggles, sibling struggles, sometimes even autism. It all plays into it. There's something that is causing the excess weight. We need to find it and we need to solve that.
So you dig deep into what the problem's root might be, and then you're providing solutions. I'm assuming action steps. You help them in the recovery process.
100%. So the program itself is very hands-on. We're essentially coming into your life for a period of 4 months, and we help you day to day, weekends, birthdays, holidays, you name it. We're there with you to make sure that every time your child is having a certain response or you're having a certain response to food, we help you solve it and rewire it so that you have a healthier one. Right? So it's a very slow nudge. When we work with parents, it's over a couple months where first you want to restructure the food in the house ever so gently so that the stuff that gives your brain a dopamine bomb is less easily available, not restricted, easily available. For example, you want to have ice cream? Ice cream is at the ice cream store. We have to go walk 30 minutes to go get it. So a little bit of friction that makes your brain calculate, okay, I'm having an emotional response. I need to soothe it. Am I willing to put the effort, 30 minutes of walking to go get the ice cream and do it? Most of the time you won't, because most of the time your brain is asking, I need emotional soothing right away, right? So it's gently restructuring the environment and the psychology so that these kinds of responses are just harder to achieve. At the same time, on the other angle, you make the other sources of soothing faster to achieve. Very simply, what gives your brain dopamine in a healthy way? Playing something, creating something, socialization, talking, physical touch, or even some gentle exercise, going on a walk, a bike ride, just spending some time with mom, maybe after dinner, just chit-chatting, right? So it's a very gentle process. You want to rewire the brain on both ways. And the goal isn't to completely change you forever. It's just to give you the tools so that you can carry this work for the rest of their childhood. Because you have to expect it's going to come up and down. And you as a parent is the only one who can be there for them more than anyone else.
Now, a lot of times the apple does not fall far from the tree. So I'm assuming that this is something maybe we can do with our child.
100%. Though I have to caveat this. We want to make sure that the child does not feel any pressure. No self-esteem issues or nothing. Sometimes, the best thing is sometimes children have no idea this is happening. We work one-to-one with the parents. The child has a faint memory that they had issues with weight. Something changed. They no longer did. The thing that changed was the parents. They learned how to deal with their own emotions and their own food coping strategies, and they learned how to communicate better with their kid, especially if they're a teen and they're resistant. It's still you're the one that is there for them the most. We help them communicate this in a way that they're receptive, understand their emotion, feel understood, and not lectured, right? So it's all part of the thing. We want to make sure the child as little as possible involved in the process with us, but 100% with you.
I love this. This is an amazing resource for parents. And if they're listening and they're resonating, how do they get a hold of you? How do they become part of this program if it's something that they want to do?
So if anything resonated here, I'm not even going to say go and book a call with us. Go on the website steptogether.us and read some of the stories, both from the families and also from our coaches. You're going to see there's someone out there who's lived exactly what your child is going to right now. And you're going to see there is a way out. You don't have to keep struggling with this and listen to all this and that advice that's all designed to keep you hooked on a product. It's really, there is a path forward. And if you feel that this resonates, I hope that you can feel that you can start the journey with us.
And tell us that website one more time so in case people missed it.
So steptogether.us.
I hope that you go to this, parents, because this is a powerful resource for you. As so many others that we bring onto the Impactful Parent, I'm so happy to have Kamy on and talk about this really important subject that so many of us have to deal with it. Again, including myself. I've had kids like this, and it is a struggle for whatever reason that it might be. And I always end, Kamy, with an impactful parent question on how we can become a more impactful parent today. So if a parent realizes today, after listening to this, that, my kid might be using food to cope with some pressures of high school or grades or social stuff, what's the first conversation that parent should have with their child tonight?
I think they shouldn't. I think if they have a conversation with their child tonight, it's going to be reactionary. I think instead they should have a conversation with their partner, if there is one, or even themselves. Try to take inventory of how you deal with your own emotions. What are your coping strategies? And try to take inventory of how you're modeling this for the kids. Whether they're seeing it or not. What's the impact that it's having on them? That's the first conversation I would have.
I love that. If that's what makes us an impactful parent, is starting with us, which, hello, we've said this so many times. We need to lead by example, parents. We need to know first. And so much of parenting starts right here with just us, me, and thinking about what's going on. And I love that answer. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's very, very powerful. Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.